We're out here. This is the field where the magic happens.
Benning Bites with Damon Benning. Benning Bites with Damon Benning.
Just completing another episode of Hurrdat Sports Radio, which leads me right into another episode of Benning Bites. My man Ravi Lula and I trying to keep you entertained throughout the course of the week. Hopefully we're doing okay in that regard. Lots going on in the sports world, so we appreciate you being a part of what we do, whether in ESPN Tri-Cities, 590 here locally, Apple, Spotify, X, Facebook. I'm working on the whole Google thing. Don't hold me to it. I'm not that smart. It's way above my pay grade, but pretty spirited discussions this week. But getting buried in the lead was Nebraska baseball, getting the first one in Game 1 done, and a huge one here today. And it just got me thinking, because Ravi and I talked about this yesterday on the show where we asked Michael Bruntz, we said, hey, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that Nebraska would go down to the last weekend with the opportunity to win the Big Ten championship in the regular season, would you take it? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were picked to finish 5th in the Big Ten Conference. This exceeds expectations. They're going to put themselves in position for postseason play. And it got me thinking, all the hand-wringing and consternation we went through about midweek games and where was this program and where was the depth on this pitching staff and getting quality starters, it just kind of put things in perspective for me, because I'm thinking all that stuff happens during sports seasons. Like I'm not chastising or making light of the fact that fan bases, once they know what you're capable of, like expectation levels are pretty fluid. But I always kind of just wonder, and I hate to use the word fair, but I always just think, like, how fair is that really? Like, given what we're really dealing with, because they're far better than anybody thought that they were going to be, the pundits anyway. And they're right here in position. I get it, can't win midweek games, but still hadn't dropped a weekend series. And so I'm thinking, all right, the level of frustration, that's just fandom. And it made me rewind to something Coach Rule said on our show during our 40-minute sit-down. He was talking to Ravi about segments of the season. And we were talking remote misses versus near misses and kind of this whole chaos theory. And I know that's like, word salad. But it was, we were 0-2, and then we won 5 out of 6, and then we lost our last 4. Like, you're okay. Like nothing happened. The expected outcomes we had to deal with in the moment. And it made me think of, the baseball yesterday made me think of how our expectation level changed. Remember when the season started, we were just hoping to make a bowl game. All right? We just want to get to 6 wins. And 0-2, and the bottom fell out. And then they go on a run, and it's like, hey, we could actually be bowling. And then the last 4 games of the season happened. And so we rode that emotion of expectations. And I always wonder, should we stop real time and say, now this team was supposed to do X, Y, and Z, and then we immediately recalibrate? Or should we, or is it okay to, you know what? We're in position now. We might as well change do a 180 on what we originally thought, and let's go ride this. Right? Because they really only finished 1 game under the expectation level from what the odds said, but it just didn't look the way that we wanted it to because of how they were losing all these close games. I'm just, is it right? Is it what we do? Is it just something that we just come to accept? Because you don't want any apathetic fans. So I think it's important to acknowledge that and say, it's fine, because what you don't want to do, well, fine, let me explain it. you don't want a fan base to say if Nebraska's, I don't know, 5-2 or 5-3 or whatever they got to 5-3. You want a little energy. You want a little juice. You don't want to say. You don't want in the same vein to say, well, gosh, they were only supposed to win 6. I'd be cool with just winning one more. No, you want to go get them all if you can. I just think it's interesting the dynamic of when we're afforded the luxury to step back and go look at the end outcome and say, what was the expectation level? That's one of the things that I think is really, really something we try to do on the show is to say it out loud so we can hold ourselves accountable, whether we're the ones doing the show or our listening audience, because there's nothing worse sometimes in dealing with sports and sports fanatics where, revisionist history is allowed to crop up, or we kind of change the narrative based on our expectation level. I think it's important to mix those things with real-time data, because as my partner will always say, hey, the information changes. You learn things real time that will allow you to recalibrate where your mind is. And so we say all that to say, man, just keep being fans, because what we want you to do is for it to care and the results matter. Don't get into the minutiae as if you're allowed to or should you. Leave that to the ding-dongs like us. You just keep giving us all the energy you got with our respective sports as we're trying to really be successful in everything we do at the university. It's another episode of Benning Bites.